If I can get everyone to please take their seats so we can start the meeting.
Two.
No, I don't know if this was on. The green light's on.
Hello?
Oh,
Okay.
Hello?
so they can hear us remotely.
What's going on, Caitlin?
I got you.
Hello?
I don't have sound. Okay, we're going to start on time. Good evening, everyone.
Lori.
Thank you. We're going to try and get the meeting start. Miss Warren, is the recording available?
Can you hear me? Because I don't think my microphone's working. Can you hear me?
It's echoing.
Oh, well, I can't record
Recording
then.
working?
Nope.
No?
It's okay. I'll take it off the video.
We have it?
He said no.
Oh, I'm asking if we're at the legal stage to move on. We do? Yeah, I thought she said we double check. He's going to double check. No, two different kinds of audio with a recording on it. She doesn't need it now. She just needs a legal recording. She's making sure. Great. Should have left it in the other room. Just done.
Well, that's why we set this room up for this purpose.
None of our technology has worked. None of it.
We won't be able to hear people talking.
Oh, that's okay. Sorry.
Yeah, it is okay.
You have to use your outside voice. You have a recording, a legal recording. Okay, that's all. We need to make sure. So we're good?
We have a recording.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm going to call the meeting to order of the joint session with the Carson City School District and the Board of Trustees. They're working on getting the projection piece out, so it's just not quite there yet. So somebody's technically working on it. Does that microphone work? No. Okay. So we're going to use our outside voices, so please don't assume I'm yelling at you. Okay. Yeah, thank you. May I have a roll call, please?
Supervisor Giomi?
Here.
Supervisor White?
Here.
Supervisor Jones?
Present.
Supervisor Schutte?
Here.
For the Board of Supervisors, Mayor Bagwell?
Here.
The Board of Supervisors, a quorum's present. School Board, President Cassiopo?
Here.
Vice President Varner?
Here.
Clerk Crossman? Here. Member Ramirez? Here. Member Kareen? Here. Member McCullough? Member Walker? Here. A quorum's present.
Thank you, Ms. Warren. We will now have our flag salute. Ms. Schutte, will you please do us the honor of leading us? Sure.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
There they are.
Yeah, it's okay. We're now going to move on to agenda item number 3, which is the adoption of the agenda. Does anyone wish any changes? Seeing none, I'll accept a motion for the adoption of the agenda. The agenda.
This is Stacy. I move to approve the agenda as presented and written.
Do I have a second on the board side?
I second.
I have a motion and a second for the adoption of the agenda. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Please note for the record that both boards were in unanimous consent for the agenda adoption. We're now going to move on to the public comment period, which is item number 4 on the agenda. Ms. Paulson, will you please start us with the video? Thank you, Ms. Paulson. Mr. Cassiopo, will you please read the recognition?
Yes. Carson City presents this certificate of recognition to Devin Linehan. Devin Linehan, 14 years of age, is a cadet senior airman with the Nevada Civil Air Patrol. He was born into a military family at Camp Pendleton and is a resident of Carson City, currently attending Carson High School as a freshman. Even at his young age, Devin has felt, like many of us recently have, the heavy weight of tragedy from the events at the Kabul airport in Afghanistan, which resulted in the loss of both civilian and American military lives. To honor the ultimate sacrifices made by the brave men and women of the United States military, Devin decided to play taps, a bugle call played by the United States Armed Forces during flag ceremonies and at military funerals, in front of his home with the American flag at half-mast and then again at his school. The sincere conviction with which Devin has mourned the lives of our brave servicemen and women, which were given to protect American ideals of democracy, freedom, and courage in the face of tyranny, deserves recognition and commendation. Today, we honor Devin for his act of heartfelt patriotism and how he chose to pay tribute to those who have fallen. We are proud of Devin. His actions exemplify those values we should all aspire to uphold: empathy for the sacrifice of others, love for our country, and a willingness to act from personal conviction and not for fame or recognition. Devin, you are a credit to your family, your school, the Carson City community, and this great nation.
Devin is on the WebEx. He was unable to come in person. Is there anything you'd like to say? Can you hear me?
I very much appreciate
There it
this.
goes.
He might be on mute.
Wait a second.
Can you hear me?
Devin, you might be on mute. We can't hear you.
He looks like he's looking on his computer for the unmute button.
Well, if anyone can figure out how to be him over any of us. No.
No,
No? Oh,
I don't know where it is.
that's okay. On WebEx, I don't know where it is to tell him, but that's okay.
It could be our end, too.
Yeah.
Do we know if it's our end? Do we know if that's our end that he's not coming through on, or?
Oh, it's
Oh,
the theater end?
problem? So, Devin, it's not you.
He is.
Okay. So, can he call in? No, we can't even get him on the phone in, right? Okay. Well,
We appreciate
that's
you.
sorry, but I hope that you all enjoyed the presentation. And yeah, let's give him a round of applause, Devin. He can see that. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Okay. Thank you all so very much. We thought it was important to honor such a fine student. So thank you for that. All right, we'll get that to Devin. I'll ask the school district to please do that, as he's a freshman at the high school, so thank you. Okay, we're going to continue on with public comment. The first one that I have signed up As a reminder, your public comment is limited to 3 minutes. I have Nan Perkins signed up. Please state your name for the record.
Yes.
Is it working?
Oh, there. Is that
Oh, they
working?
can hear us, that's right.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. I'm here because with everybody, the school board here, there's a lot of people that are concerned about the children of our nation, not just our nation, but of the world. But we're talking about the COVID vaccination. And I have some printouts here for everybody with the world premiere screening that began on August 30th. But there's a lot of information here. A lot of people don't know what's really happening all over the world, and this is going to help you understand it. And I just hope that you'll take a chance to look at it, so that, because for all of us, education is the best thing that we can do. Instead of taking source from one place or two places who might all come from one place, let's get it from all over the world, and we can help each other and help everybody by knowing what's really going on. So I don't know where to leave this, but, oh, thank you. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank
Ms.
you.
Perkins. I have next on the list Richard Nagel. Oh, are we changing it to Betsy on behalf? Okay, she's on the other list. I'll cross her off. Thank you.
To the Carson City School Board and the Board of Supervisors of the Consolidated Municipality of Carson City. My name is Betsy Strasberg, and I'm a resident of Carson City. Vaccine mandates are unconstitutional, so it's left to the CDC and other organizations to push vaccination. The sole purpose of the grant that you approved this morning is to increase vaccination. CDC's sole purpose is to push the experimental drug. They did not produce any unbiased objective information. The HHS is using that information, and you know that they're going to recommend vaccinations. They will do so without consultation with the recipient's doctors. Giving a recipient an opportunity to sign a document does not construe consent. Will HHS accept liability for the long-term impact or the adverse effects of the drug before asking anyone to give consent? Some of the targeted population, mentally ill, youth at risk, etc., are under duress due to their personal circumstances. So can they really give you informed consent? Informed consent is needed under the Nuremberg Code after the Second World War. The schools will be exposed to the same level of vaccine propaganda. Some parents do not have the time to do their own independent research. As Director Akers said, that she is a trusted resource to this community, so it will be easy for the educators to sway the audience towards taking the vaccination. Carson City is 70% vaccinated without advertisements or outreach. Does sugary drinks, ads influence consumption? You bet. Newsom is betting millions of dollars on ads to fight the recall. Ads and incentives do produce the same end result. No, the jab is not equivalent to a car seat or a car seat belt or a child seat, which has no known long-term effects. It is not the same as the vaccines for malaria and measles, which has been with us for years. The mRNA genetic modification in the vaccine has not been around for 10 years, as it was reported this morning. Your vote this morning was consequential. The vote that you did will stay with you as the long-term impact of this mRNA drugs becomes evident over the next few years. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Strasberg. Excuse me. I want to keep the meeting orderly and give everyone their opportunities for public comment, so please help me accomplish that goal. Maxine Bradshaw? Please come to the mic.
Right, ma'am? Right
The
up
mic
top
is
here,
at
ma'am.
the,
Pardon?
the mic is at the podium. It's okay. It's the one that's, we can hear.
My name is Maxine Bradshaw. I'm a Carson City resident, and I have been coming to many of the board meetings for the school board. My concern, I have some handouts here that I did send last year to the county commissioners, and they were letters from We the People of Nevada. They talked about the lockdowns and the issue that we had with COVID and what was going on. In the process, with all of this going on, people were searching and receiving information medically. There was the Great Barrington Declaration. There was a Dr. Beta Stadler out of Switzerland, Bern, Switzerland, who is a biologist, and he specializes in immunology. They came out in the very beginning in February of last year, and he later produced some articles in July saying what this was, that it was not an epidemic. It was no different than an influenza. We have acted on this with insanity. It is affecting our children, and right now we're at a point where my biggest concern is the children in our schools and what you are advocating to do to these children. There should never be a vaccine, and there are thousands of doctors coming forward that are saying you do not inject these children with this vaccine at all. There are also people who doctors have given proof of the damage that masks do. This is not a good thing for our children. And what I want to do is, I'm speaking, I know, to the Consolidated Municipality of the Board of Supervisors. I know that that's your title. That's the title of the community. I do have handouts here. I have one for Lori Bagwell, Mayor, Stacy Giomi, Ward 1, Maurice Mo White, Ward 2, Stan Jones, Ward 3, and Lisa Shute, Ward 4. This is the medical documentation that supports the letters we wrote last year in September 2nd, and the second one dated December 22nd to accommodate the new officers that were sworn in. But we explained that how it was killing our state and this county with all of these shutdowns and people reacting the way we were, when we have had a constant cure for this that eliminates it in a matter of days. Hydroxychloroquine was banned by our governor. Things that actually worked. There were therapeutics that actually worked that were banned. So you have to question what everyone's motive is in positions of authority. I appreciate your time, and I don't know how to get these to you, but they're here. Thank you.
Please leave the handouts with staff. Thank you, Ms. Bradshaw. Next on the list, I'm just going to let you know we'll be unable to continue if we have disruptions. Please be courteous for the next speaker to be called. Ms. Songer, Deborah Songer? If I've got it wrong, I apologize. Okay. I can't read my own handwriting either, so.
There I'm ending up teaching. Okay. I was hoping you'd call me later after everybody, because I'm not going to call you about evidence. I'm not going to tell you what's what, which is amazing because we do, for equity, we have a problem. Where's the different colors? We are chauvinistic pigs, all of us. We're all white. We're above that level. We know it all. And you know what I'm talking about. Anyways, I'm sorry, but that's the way I feel. You're teaching our children stuff that we don't want them taught, but yet you don't teach them cursive writing, which I just found out by my third grade grandson. So that's inadequate. Commission, thank you for the board members. It is nice to have all of you here for once, because we don't get to see all of you together. Even though none of you, the equity thing, I'm sorry. I am not here to list facts. I have questions before you think of anything about putting any shot in a child's arm, because you will have blood on your arms if they die. And I don't care if it's a year, 2 years from now. They die from a heart, that's you. That's like our president having blood on his, leaving the Americans where they are right now, stranded. And I don't think you'd want it, because I don't really think we have very many people here in Carson City that's a communist, like Sisolak. And I can have prove that for you guys if you want. I am not, anyways. My first question is, I want to know the facts. There is no studies about the mask wearing. The only reason why I'm not wearing one is because I will pass out in front of you. But there is no studies. Where are the studies that masks work? I was called by my best friend, who I think is like a mother to me. Her husband called me a killer. And that's not right. You guys are pulling us here and there. We all should want our freedoms. Yeah, there aren't any math studies. And if they are, they're really deep in, and it shows it doesn't work. Okay, I also would like to know, why do you call this shot a vaccine? Look it up. Look it up on the CDC. It sure doesn't say vaccine like every other
Ms.
vaccine.
Songer, do you have written testimony you can leave with us, because your
I did
3
not
minutes
bring
has
it,
completed?
But you can look it up on the CDC. How hard is that? I
Thank
can get
you.
my phone. I'm sorry.
No, you're all right.
It is
but
on the CDC.
thank you so much for your testimony tonight. We're going to move forward with the next person
Oh,
that's
it hasn't
entitled.
been 3 minutes, has it?
Yes.
Are you
Thank you
just kicking
so
me out
very
'cause I'm
much. We
white?
really appreciate your
Yeah,
cooperation.
I'll see you at.
Yes, let me know, call me later, we can talk. Thank you, Deborah. There is a Mary Ann Humphrey.
My name is Mary Ann Humphrey. I live in Carson City. I love living here. When we moved here, I felt like I really lived in America. Over the last, year since COVID struck and everybody, it's been almost the changes. And especially this year, we're slowly, day by day, seeing all our rights and freedoms being stripped from us. I know you people know, at least the Board of Supervisors know I was here this morning. I want to express my disappointment that what I and other people expressed was like not even taken into consideration about the Health and Human minivan that's going to be going around. I don't know how the jails work here, but I know in California at the jails, they don't inoculate every single inmate. They have to ask if it's okay if they get a vaccine. So why are we bringing a mobile unit to inoculate, inmates? Why are we going to people who have low income? They go to stores. Just like I said this morning, they go to stores. This shot, do any of you know the long-term effect of this shot? Nobody knows, but it does horrific things to our bodies. And nobody is looking out, oh, I got my shot. I have medical reasons why I can't get one, but that's neither here or there. It should be a choice, but we should not be financing something or getting a grant from the CDC, to go and inoculate people, because our governor is a step away from mandating this vaccine. So how's that going to work? And our poor kids, whether they're high schoolers or younger, how are they going to be coerced and taking something that could damage their bodies? I'm a mother of 4 kids, and I have 6 grandsons, age 16 down to 6. And I'm scared to death of their lives, let alone us and all the other citizens here. And I think it's wrong that we're just taking the agenda from the CDC, which has changed their story many times on how many people died and how many people didn't die. And that's wrong, to just jump on the board and then we're stuck. And I'm scared to death of the mandates because it's going to affect a lot of people. There are people that will walk away from their jobs because they don't want to take the shot. And it should never, ever do this. We're Americans, and we have freedoms, and we have rights, and we have the Constitution and Bill of Rights. And we better start abiding by it because we're losing our country. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Humphrey. The next person that I have on the list is Charlotte Stewart.
My name is Charlotte Stewart. I kind of got a speech here. It's probably too long, so I'm going to just go through it as quick as possible. Last week, there was a comment that some people here don't even have kids in the district. My daughter would still be in the district had this nonsense not happen. We're here for the children, parents, and teachers who can't be here or don't want to come for fear of retaliation. I don't envy the job you have to do. That being said, I hope you make your decisions based on parents and employees' choices. Let them choose what they want to do with their body. I noticed that this time last year, it was almost impossible to get a COVID test. Now this year, we are testing more people regardless if they have symptoms or not. At the same time, masks were removed and classes were back to full capacity. Now on Facebook, there were several comments blaming the rise in cases on masks being optional. However, now that you have brought the mask back, it would make sense to continue to test at the same rate because odds are you will find that the masks don't do anything to slow the spread. At the same time, or the same goes for the tests. If you only test unvaccinated people, you will only have cases from the unvaccinated. Not a complete picture of what is really going on. There is a video of Fauci saying that the test should be run below 30 cycle threshold counts because anything above will likely give false positives. The CDC epidemiologist that was here a couple weeks ago said that they're testing at 40 cycles. It's like the data they have on people with antibodies. There is a lot of talk about studying people that have antibodies further. If we all are forced to take this vaccine, our natural antibodies will be neutralized and no one can be studied then. The antibody tests are not reliable. According to the doctors, they will not just prescribe one for someone so that they don't have to take the vaccine. That is very alarming, considering the vaccine has terrible side effects on people. Now, my personal experience, I had COVID. I was high risk with asthma, on immunosuppressants, and with an autoimmune condition. I only had flu symptoms for 3 days and couldn't taste. 6 months later, I was exposed to COVID again, taking care of my family for over 10 days. I had no symptoms during this time. There is no way I want to get rid of these antibodies. I would like to finish with this. I looked at bed capacity surrounding hospitals. It doesn't look good. However, if you think about it, we started to spike right before more people started to get the vaccine. My husband and daughter got COVID right after being around freshly vaccinated teachers and coworkers. I think that's more than just a coincidence. I have a friend who had COVID so bad she was in the hospital for 12 days. Then when she was able to, she got the Pfizer vaccine. Now she has blood clots in her lungs and is in terrible pain.
Thank you, Ms. Stewart. Your 3 minutes has completed. Thank you, though. Miss, I guess it's Ashley Stewart. Nice to see a young lady. Daughter.
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Ashley Stewart, and I would like to ask you a few questions. First,
She's okay. You're doing wonderful, Ashley. You're doing wonderful. Ashley, if you want to go back and write them down, I'll call you up again if you'd like. Would that help? All right, let's do it that way. I will put a note here to recall you. I have next on the list Joy Trzynski. Good evening, Ms. Trzynski.
Good evening, it's Joy Trushensky. Good evening, Carson City School Board, Supervisors for Consolidated Municipality of Carson City, Nevada. Again, I am saying it again, there is no scientific basis to continue to demand children in grade schools, high schools, or college students to wear masks and be vaccinated with the COVID-19 vaccines. On September 20th, 2020, the CDC reported the survival rates for COVID-19. These are as follows. Ages 0 to 19, the survival rate is 99.997%. Ages 20 to 49 is 99.98%. Ages 50 to 69, the survival rate is 99.5%. And ages 70 plus is 94.6%. These survival rates have not changed. For a virus that is supposed to be so deadly, these survival rates sure are high. We have cures for this virus like hydroxychloroquine with zinc, if not banned by Democrat governors, and ivermectin, and more cures daily are coming to the forefront. Governor Sisolak banned hydroxychloroquine for the public, but authorized its use for Nevada prison population in 3/2020. Because this happened, many people died in the citizenry. The CDC is now talking about COVID-19 variants, but variants are almost always less lethal as the virus seeks to survive. This according to the Americans' frontline doctors. COVID-19 vaccines being pushed by our government are untested, experimental, and do not work. Also, the pharmaceutical companies are not liable for any harmful side effects. The truth is people are dying after getting the vaccines or have experienced heart damage, blood clots, and neurological damage. The long-term effects of these vaccines are unknown. And parents, I say to you, you should know that giving the vaccines to your children who are basically immune is dangerous. As to wearing masks, the CDC in 2009, with the outbreak of the swine flu from China, came out with the harmful effects of wearing masks. They did 7 testing on masks at different times, and wearing masks, they stated, reduces your immune system, can cause serious respiratory infection and death. The
Ms.
CDC
Trzynski,
stated
thank you
that
so much
masks
for your
usually
public
worn
comment.
are not
Thank you.
helpful.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much for your time.
Thank you. Next on the list is Ms. Williford. Linda?
Good evening. This is Linda Williford. I'm a state worker. Okay. Last year, I got COVID-19 twice by the swab, okay? I was sick for 2.5 months, almost died, okay? Now we're testing every week as a state worker. And I keep telling them if I get COVID-19, I will sue completely because there's no reason for people to be tested at all, okay? And the children should not wear masks. Children should not get vaccination, and I'm not going to. I will not, because I do not trust it at all. Because my sister, she just died, and she had cancer, but she was getting better. Then she got the shot, okay? Both shots. Now she's dead, okay? Because the cancer came back. So, sorry, I'm sorry. Anyway, the point is, no one should take the vaccine, and no one should be wearing masks or shields. This is America, and we have constitutional rights. And the governor, Sister he should know better. He should know better that he shouldn't do this to us. We're Americans.
Thank you, Ms. Williford. Sorry for your loss. The next on the list that I have is Amber Premo, sorry.
Do I push this button?
It's on.
Hi, my name is Amber Primo, and I'm a former Carson City resident. I'm a little nervous. I wasn't prepared to speak. But basically, I want to tell you, these masks don't work. They're too big for the particulate size unless you use an N95, number one. Number two, the PCP test, they're completely rigged. They can't differentiate between influenza A, B, and COVID-19. And what the hell, pardon my French, what the heck happened to the flu? Okay, where'd that go? Where did all the other diseases that kill you go? Why are we doing this, people? It makes no sense. What happened to common sense? What happened to our rights? What happened to informed consent? It's not a one-size-fits-all, okay? Some people have contraindications and can't take the vaccine. And if the vaccine did work, why are people wearing masks? I mean, just start asking common sense things. You know, I'm really concerned for the children. I used to be a teacher. And I don't have children of my own, unfortunately, but if I did, there's no way I would do this. And I'm just asking you, please, 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 to reconsider what you're doing. I mean, it's just not, it's not right. And I think deep in your heart, you know it's not right. Gosh, I'm gonna cry. But anyways, I just wanted to say that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Primo, I appreciate that. Ms. Stewart, are you ready to come back up? Or do you need a little more? You're ready? Okay.
Okay, so as I left off, I wanted to ask some questions. The first question is, are you keeping the masks?
What was your question?
Are you keeping the masks?
Who's we? It's not the decision here. Keep going. She's doing good.
Are you testing as much as well?
So we have two different boards up here, and I want to try and help you. A little bit later, we're going to have a presentation from the health department that probably could answer those questions, and it's totally up to you because this is your 3 minutes, but if you have those questions written out, the health department is here, and I will ask Ms. Akers to actually answer your questions on the record. Would you like that? Would that help you to hear answers tonight?
Yes, please.
We will be honored to do that. If you can just step to the side, they'll help get your questions, and so we'll make sure we get credit for your questions, Ashley. We'll call them out during the presentation and answer them. How's that?
All right.
Thank you so much for coming tonight, and I look forward to you getting your answers on the record. Thank you.
But that's
We'll
not
come
all I
back
had
to you
say.
when Miss Akers is up, okay?
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Well,
You did a great job. Yeah, she did a great job. It's such a pleasant thing to see the young people come.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I have information that,
Whoa.
I have information that's,
No, it won't record, hold on.
there, is that better? Okay. I have information, or somebody on the phone would like to make public comment. Are we able to do that tonight?
I called for that in the beginning. I'll call for it in the end of this again. Oh, wait, you're saying you know someone has, do I have a caller on the line?
We do have one caller on the line.
We just have one caller. Thank you, Mr. White. If the caller would like to proceed with their public comment, please state your name for the record.
Caller, when you hear the two beeps, it'll be your turn for public comment. Please state your name for the record.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is Sean Meehan, founder of Guard the Constitution, and I teach legislatures across the country the Constitution. And I'm also the chairman of the Nevada Republican Party Resolutions Committee, while I am not commenting on their behalf tonight. I just want to say that we're 18 months into an alleged pandemic emergency. We're back in masks, and hospitalization numbers prove to us it's not working. Legislative bodies like you, ladies and gentlemen, are our representatives, and you are the guardians of our constitutionally protected God-given rights by standing up for us and refusing to comply with unconstitutional restrictions. When you swore your oath of office under Article 6, Clause 3 of the Constitution, you swore under oath or affirmation to support the Constitution. And the Ninth Amendment clearly articulates that not all rights are specifically spelled out. It's important in Douglas County, where I live, and experience visiting your lovely county of Carson. I've had some unfortunate experiences with Governor Sisolak's Directive 047 that I wanted to call to your attention. I have a rated sinus disability from the VA, that there's an exemption in that directive. Almost every store I go into, especially gaming institutions, are incredibly hostile, and they are not trained, and they say they don't care, and they will not let me enter without a mask. That's not appropriate. I even show them a written copy. And I would just like to say that we have an opportunity as ladies and gentlemen Americans to forward what our founders would have wanted. Is information, right or wrong, is important, but if we cancel the minority, we destroy the reason that we are a republic instead of a democracy. Sometimes the people with less volume of information or less people have the right information, and they're not being heard. So I respect that you, ladies and gentlemen, have the job of deciding for us what the right information is. I hope we take another look, we stand up, and that you interpose between the people and the governor and nullify this NRS 414 18-month emergency that I would argue is no longer an emergency. Thank you, Madam Mayor, for your time and attention and the right to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Meehan. Next on the list is Marie Foster. Good evening.
There we go. Okay, Marie Foster. I wanted to talk to you guys about a couple of studies real quick. I actually tried to get on the governor's team with his mandate and figured I would do my due diligence and do research and do the other things that we should be doing. And I only found one study, and it's on the CDC webpage. It states that masks are 37% effective in masking children. Ventilation is 39% effective. Now, if you look at that per population, what they broke it down to is 1 case difference per your entire school. That's the only research the CDC has posted on mask wearing. There's 11 to 14 other that I have printed out here that I'll leave for you against masking, the harm that there's a potential of 11 deadly pathogens on the masks. There was a study of 25,000 children where there were 17,000 harmful side effects and injuries from mask wearing, hypoxia being one of the number 1. So I want to keep it in mind with you guys when it comes to enforcement. These officers can tell you that enforcement falls to the person who's enforcing it. The liabilities fall to the person who's enforcing it. Not the mandate, not the training procedure, okay? Last thoughts. To whom it may concern, I am asking you for public records, request of all legal evidence that you have provided me to justify your policy or mandate to make me or my child wear a mask, take a COVID test, or get a COVID vaccination. I'm assuming that you have a weight of evidence showing peer-reviewed clinical trials published with respected medical journals to legally justify your policy and mandate. Because if you don't, you're in violation of Section 242 of the U.S. Code Title 18, Deprivation of Rights under Color of Law, which states, whoever under color of any law, statute, ordinance, regulation, or custom willfully subjects any person in any state, territory, commonwealth, possession, or district to the deprivation of any rights, privileges, or immunities secured or protected by the Constitution or laws of the United States, or different punishments, pains, or penalties on account of such person being an alien or by reason of his color, race, or any other that are prescribed for punishment of citizens, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 1 year or both. In addition, I assume that your legal department has made you aware that while the U.S. Congress has granted vaccine manufacturers legal immunity, you have not been granted the same protections and
Ms.
can
Foster,
and
your
will
time
be
has
sued
elapsed.
for
If you would
any
like
adverse
to
effects.
leave that with us for public testimony, if you have it written, we'd be happy to do
Absolutely. I would just like to say too, this letter, I've got copies for parents if you guys would like to sign them and send them in.
Yep. Thank you so much. Next on the list, I have Fred Simon.
Good evening.
Good evening.
It's interesting to go to these board meetings and see all the citizens who have been elected to the board and the intellectual elite of our communities. No time in history have we dealt with an infectious disease that we didn't do herd immunity. If somebody tests positive for anything, doesn't mean they're infected, they're colonized. And this is how herd immunity occurs. The CDC and the NIH doesn't want this to happen. In 2000, Dr. Fauci and Dr. Barrett changed the genetic sequence of the SARS virus and made it a pathogen. They made it sensitive to the endothelial tissue of the lung. It's all documented. It's all in the patents, US patent, 4,000 patents on coronavirus. April 25th, 2003, patent 7220852. CDC patented the virus, the disease, the detectability. They owned all the economics. 3 days later, there was the patent for the vaccine, 2003. You all have an obligation to know the information. You were elected by the people. There's one of two things going on here. You either are going to be intellectually ignorant and not look at the data that's out there and only believe part of it, or you're going to go along with a tyrant who has extorted power and has ruined democracy and has intimidated you people to the point it's all about money. You're not going to get funded by the state. So you either have the conviction and character to do the right thing based upon information, or you don't.
Thank you. I really can't call on people if you're doing that. I want to give everyone their fair chance to be heard tonight. So I have Karen Stevens. Good evening, Ms. Stevens.
Good evening. Margaret King is also giving me her 3 minutes, so I don't have to be interrupted.
There's only 3 minutes per speaker. There's no cumulative speaking, so please go.
Since when?
It's 3 minutes.
Okay, well, good afternoon, Board of Supervisors of the Consolidated Municipality of Carson City and Carson City School Board members. By some of your actions today, started the wrong place. I adamantly object to the city's acceptance of the CDC's grant money to finance the inoculation mobile. People think grants are free money. They are not. They always come with strings and conditions attached. So what are those conditions? This is our tax money. It's not free money. And I oppose it. It's used to maim and kill our children and citizens. Have you ever wondered or heard of the valiant doctors like Judy Mikovits, Joseph Mercola, Dr. Robert Kennedy Jr., Simone Gold, frontline doctors? Or the Children's Defense Funds? Why are they being harassed and threatened, stalked, targeted, silenced, and canceled, put on no-fly lists? It's because they speak out about the health risks of masks and COVID vaccines. Have you ever wondered why the CEO of Pfizer hasn't taken the COVID vaccine? If it's so safe, why wouldn't he take his own vaccine? And why is the insert to the vaccine left intentionally blank? Shouldn't we be able to know what's in it? I think that's because we are the guinea pigs. We're not allowed to know what's in the vaccine. So how can there be informed consent? Why have so many people died from the chemical bioweapon, vaccine, that all the vaccines combined over the last 20 years exceeds what the COVID vaccine exceeds the 20 years of other vaccines? Have you heard of the VAERS report? As of 8/25/21, VAERS has received 1,377 reports of myocarditis or pericarditis for people ages 30 or younger that received the Pfizer or Moderna jab,
Thank you, Ms.
particularly
Stevens. Your
male
time has completed.
adolescents.
Thank you so much. Next up, if you have written stuff that you had for somebody else you were going to leave, please leave it with staff.
Well, I don't understand, when we speak in front of the school board, and this is a combined meeting, we are allowed to take 3 minutes of somebody else's time that they give to us. And so
I'm sorry,
you're
that's not what's
trying to
posted on
silence
the-
me,
yeah.
just like you're moving him to the side like he's a second-class citizen. It's not right.
Thank you. Next up is Casey Rogers. Good evening.
Oops, okay, sorry. Casey Rogers for the record. I'm reading off this paper that I found from American Frontline Doctors, but here we go. It's a myth that masks prevent viruses from spreading. The overall evidence is clear. Standard cloth and surgical masks offer next to no protection against virus-sized particles or small aerosols. The size of the virus particle is much too small to be stopped by a surgical mask, cloth, or bandana. A single virion of SARS-CoV-2 is about 60-140 nanometers or 0.1 microns. The pore size in a surgical mask is 200 to 1,000 times that size. Consider that the CDC website states surgical masks do not catch all harmful particles in smoke, and that the size of smoke particles in a wildfire are not, where am I? Hold on one second. Surgical masks, not all harmful particles in smoke, and that the size of smoke particles in wildfires are 0.5 microns, which is 5 times the size of the SARS-CoV-2 virus. I will say that again, 0.5 microns, which is 5 times the size of SARS-CoV-2 virus. Wearing a mask to prevent catching SARS-CoV-2 or similar-sized influenza is like throwing sand through a chain-link fence. It does not work. There has been one large randomized controlled trial that specifically examined whether masks protect their wearers from the coronavirus. This study found mask wearing did not reduce at conventional levels of statistical significance the incidence of SARS-CoV-2 infection. Next. Yes, we have Governor Sisolak's directive and NRS 414.070, correct? And that's what you guys are going under, correct? For that NRS? But there is no statutory law that requires you, your employers, your customers to wear a mask, get their temperature taken, or stay 6 feet apart. There is no law that requires you to serve your people, your students, your outside, to reduce the number of people in your business or your schools. In fact, if you require us to wear masks or restrict their movement or entry if they are not wearing a mask, you are at risk for violating several federal and state laws. Any violation of these laws will be reported to the appropriate authorities, and the personal responsibility for this is for your school district. You personally will be at risk for fines and imprisonment upon conviction of these crimes. U.S. federal laws. Number 1, the U.S. Constitution,
Thank
First
you, Ms.
Amendment,
Rogers.
right to assemble, freedom of speech, right to religious extension. By the way, I'd like to say that when people are clapping in here, that's part of freedom of speech, right to express.
Thank you.
And they are taking their time to do that when it doesn't happen. This is for you. It's from American Frontline Doctors.
Thank you. Please
Talks
leave it
about
with our
Nuremberg
staff.
codes.
I appreciate that. I don't have anyone else
That was
signed
3
up.
minutes?
I know it goes fast, but you were quick. You were a quick reader. I have to give you that. Just to double check, did any other additional callers come on the line?
There are no other callers on the line at this
I
time.
just wanted to make one last check there. Any additional comment? We listen to every single word that was said tonight. Just because you don't get the results that you want necessarily doesn't mean we did not listen. Sir, did you want to have public comment? Please come on up. Please state your name for the record.
Hi, Kevin Schwartz for the record.
Kevin Schwartz, thank you.
Schwartz. Yes, so I've sort of been on the sidelines during this whole COVID debate, waiting for the data to come in to make some decisions about things. And now we have the data coming in, and I don't see people actually looking at the data that comes in. So the most recent after report on the COVID-19 vaccination that I have from July, this is from the CDC's website, shows that my son's probability of dying from COVID are 2 in 1 million, okay? He is a 12-year-old male, right? So he's in the 12 to 17-year-old male subgroup, okay? His probability of getting myocarditis from the vaccine is between 56 and 69. So if we run the numbers on the low end of that estimate, we come up with my son is 28 times more likely to develop myocarditis from the vaccine than he is to die from COVID. And yet, because of the rules that the governor has mandated, he is supposed to be tested every week or he can't compete in sports, right? Which to me seems like a coercive method to make him take a vaccine that seems unsafe to me, okay? And so my ask of both boards here would be to go on record and let us know if you support the governor's mandates or if you oppose them. Because I think that would go a long way, to the public to let us know where you stand on this issue. Do you support what the governor is doing, what he's mandating on these kids, or do you oppose it? Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate your comments. Is there any other public comment? One more? Okay, come on up.
Hi, my name is Michael Rowe.
Michael Rowe?
Rowe, yes, I'm
Thank
a
you.
Carson City resident. I have 3 children in Carson City schools. I'd like to thank you for reinstating the mask mandate for this month. Last year, my children's school stayed open, partially because everyone was masked. And to me, that's more compelling evidence than a website that sells horse medication. And I feel it's dishonest to dismiss the efforts that we have taken through the school year and just assume that children are naturally immune when, once we opened up and went optional on masking, with a more contagious variant, we've had to close one school already 2 weeks into the school year. Plus, it also seems unfathomably cruel to tout the survivability rates and suggest that the risk is acceptable, that there might be some losses among school children when the precautions to take are so innocuous. These precautions aren't harming the kids. Even without masks, they will inhale twice as much carbon dioxide with every breath than most of the people in this room did in their youth. Every summer is cut shorter and shorter because of smoke and ash. And their joy on returning to school is tempered by the fact that they have to drill on what to do if someone comes there looking to kill them. They're not weak. And for anyone to suggest, as a way to not take these precautions, that they will somehow be traumatized by a piece of fabric, I feel is just projecting their own fragility. They happily wore masks because they understood that they were protecting older, more vulnerable generations when there were very limited options for protection, when there weren't vaccines, when there weren't treatments. And now those that they protected will not return their favor. Instead, they want to strip them of any remaining protections because if they convince themselves that nothing is effective, they can excuse their own inaction. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rowe. Okay, I don't see any further public comments, so we're going to move on to agenda item number 5, which is our welcoming remarks and introductions of the members of the board. President Joe Cassiopo, would you start with your remarks, please? An introduction.
Thank you, Mayor. Joe Cassiopo, President of the Carson City School District Board of Trustees. I want to welcome everybody to our first joint meeting of 2001. I think this is an invaluable 2021.
21, not 1.
What did I say, 2001?
We're going way back.
Sometimes I wish. I think these are great opportunities to get together and show the public that we're working together in the best interest of the community and of the students of the community. It's certainly been a challenging 18 months navigating through the pandemic, combined now with the fires and other things going on in our country. But again, we value our partnership. I did want to take a moment while I have the mic to just acknowledge and express some sympathy for those that have been displaced by the wildfires we've had and to thank the firefighters for all that they're doing. It's certainly not a job I would want to have, and I take my hat off to them. It's very brave of them. I also want to send out my sympathies to those who have been displaced by the hurricanes and those that are impacted by the situation in Afghanistan, and most recently, to the high school student that lost his life yesterday in a North Carolina school shooting. So we certainly have some tragedies in the world, but we also have some amazing things that happen in the world. And sometimes we have to remember all the good that happens. But I do appreciate in terms of public comment, I know sometimes we don't see eye to eye or we're not perceived to see eye to eye. But I appreciate everybody's public comment. I think it's important. And I just hope that eventually we can come together and sometimes if we have to agree to disagree, or maybe agree, but agree in a different way. And again, just come together. We're so divided right now that it's unfortunate. But I want to thank everybody for being here. And real quick, I want to thank our Board of Trustees for all the work you do. This has been a challenging 18 months, and I just appreciate everybody's professionalism and willingness to work together. I know we don't always see eye to eye, but how we handle that in the board meeting, I really appreciate. And the trustees, again, the supervisors, thank you very much for allowing us to be a part of this and for your time as well.
Thank you. I too just want to echo the words of President Cacioppo. It's such an honor to have an opportunity to come together as both the Board of Supervisors and the school board to find those common things of which we all care about, which is our children. I think that's why we're doing this tonight. That's what we're all here for. I too want to echo that the public comment is always vital. I wish that sometimes what you were commenting on were things within the purview of our board, and unfortunately, it is not. So it is not that we're not listening or hearing. We're not always going to agree. I think that's a valid issue. But the things that you want changed are not within the scope of this particular board. And I also recognize at the state level, it's very difficult for you to have an opportunity to comment where the change can be made because there isn't any public comment opportunities. And for that, I'm sorry. I'm sorry there is nowhere, no public meetings, and no access for you to ask for redress. It is not within the purview of us. We don't issue the directives. And so I just think it's important that you know it's not that we don't have empathy or thoughts towards what you're saying. It's simply not something within our purview to do. It's not our mandate. But I think that we are all doing just absolutely what we can to the best of our ability. Your kids matter to us, to all of us. And I think it's important that you know that. And I want to thank, we have Supervisor Giomi, Supervisor Jones, Supervisor Schutte, and Supervisor White. He's not being ostracized. I think I heard that earlier. Mr. White is exercising his right to say he does not want to wear a mask. However, the right is a different one. He can do the items around him to remain in compliance with the rules. So that was his choice, and I don't have a problem with the choice that he decided to make. So just to let you know that.
This is not my choice.
Not wearing a mask? Never mind.
Sitting
Okay.
in this bubble.
Okay, well, that's the way it goes. We're going to move on to agenda item 6A, which is a discussion and presentation on the School Resource Officers Joint Program between Carson City Sheriff's Office and the Carson City School District. I know we all are, I think all of us are familiar with the program, but Sheriff Furlong, would you like to present on this item, please?
Good morning.
Good evening. Yeah, good morning.
It's been a long day.
Yeah.
Thank you all. Let me begin just by, for one moment, because I probably won't get this audience again and have the opportunity. I want to thank Superintendent Richard Stokes for the years and years of dedicated service that he has guided with us through the Sheriff's Office, the School Resource Officer Program, our governing bodies, to make sure that our children's safety in our schools is as high as we can possibly achieve. We're not always successful, and Joe made that point. Across the country, we see tragedies, but we see, because of Mr. Stokes and because of that relationship he has with the Carson Sheriff's Office, we've had the tools and the means and the policies and the practices and the enthusiasm of the schools to be able to put our best foot forward and keep the children safe. I would like to just kind of do a brief overview of where we've gone, because the 2020 sent out some challenges. We originally started our school grant program several years ago. I applied for the grant and it was awarded. That provided for 3 officers that the school district and the city of Carson shared that financial responsibility. In years past, we had Miss Lisa Davis, who has been the Pied Piper of our children here in Carson City and been very engaged and welcomed into our classroom. During the 2020 COVID response, Miss Lisa retired. Carson City was gracious enough to adjust the duty position, and now that position is full-time dedicated to Matt Smith's SRO team. Along that path, the school district, this past, Richard, a couple of years now, the school district applied for grant funding to achieve a supervisor and an additional SRO officer into the schools. That grant has come to an end, and the school district is graciously continuing that process right now today. And so as we sit here going into this school year, we have a total of 6 officers assigned to the school district. This past season, we had some excellent officers stand up. Richard Stokes was the first phone call I made. Hey, how about we put a drug dog in the schools? And the scope of that was that dog must be capable of being in the playground, unattended by the officers of a kindergarten class, and there'd be no risk to the children. That was a great, great opportunity. And working with some of our locals, Carson City Toyota, our canine officers and the schools, we were able to achieve that and field it by the beginning of this school year. That canine dog is a drug detection dog. It has no patrol training. So I feel very comfortable in that environment. In closing, I would, again, Mr. Stokes, years and years of fantastic leadership, years and years of fantastic coordination. The school trustees, you will be, if he does it, if he pulls the pin, you'll be losing a tremendous leader. And you have a history of tremendous leaders with Miss Mary preceding Richard, and I just could not thank him anymore. So that's the composition of the program we have. The goal of our program is 0 fatalities of youth in our community and in our area. We have virtually achieved that. We did unfortunately lose a juvenile up at Lake Tahoe this year. Ironically, as the summer months came on, we reassigned one of our school resource officers to the Washoe County Sheriff's Office Boat Patrol. We are engaged with our youth, including during the summers up at the lake, as well as around the clock in this community. That youth ended up being a California juvenile, but it does signify that need and that urgency to be able to deploy our officers everywhere where our children are at. With that, I would like to introduce Sergeant Matt Smith. He runs our school resource officer program and just does a fantastic job. Matt?
First, I want to say thank you to both boards for taking this evening to listen to me tonight, talk about some of our accomplishments, some of the things we've done well, and the things we're striving for in the future. SROs within a school are much more than a law enforcement entity within a school. We are educators, we are coaches, we're mentors. We're somebody in the halls they can give a high five to, or somebody we're willing to lend an ear to. We want all of our children in the schools and in the community to know we're there for them. One of the bigger accomplishments, one of our prouder moments, came during the COVID pandemic. I'll share with you a little bit of a story that makes me proud and still brings a smile to my face. Part of our program is designed to be there when a child needs us. During our time in the schools, we build relationships with these children. And one specific incident happened during this time of crisis, when COVID was at its worst and our schools were shut down. One of the kids that we have built a tremendous relationship with reached out to us in a time of crisis. He called to dispatch having suicidal ideations. He was depressed. But through our constant interaction with this young child, he specifically asked for two of us by name. I want these two because I know them. We dropped everything on a dime. We ran to his house. He is alive today. And even in the halls, he sees us. And to this day, he still rings out in the hallway, "Yo, Sarge." That's me. That's just one of our success stories we've had. There are many more that we've had. Success stories really don't make the paper, so you won't hear about it. But to us, in the schools, it makes a big difference. We want to be there for our children in their time of crisis, in and or outside of school. So far, I think within the past couple of years I've been with the program, I think we've done a fantastic job of building a great relationship with our administrators, the district, teachers, and our children. We function, and our job has really evolved. We've evolved into all of these different requirements to meet those needs of our community. Being up on the boats, being up there at the beaches to help those kids, being down here in the schools, promoting positive relationships with our kids, in the community, hosting events to be a part with our kids. We're on first name basis with the kids and students within our school. We want it that way. I want them to call me anytime they have a need. So we've also been in constant communication, and this spring, actually, I thought of a new and innovative way along with another deputy. I want to work with our kids a little bit deeper. I want to promote some of the educational stuff that they've been lacking. How is that? Well, in collaboration with our Carson City School District. I'm just going to briefly touch on this because it is a topic that we are going to be presenting a little bit further at the next school board meeting. Idea was, I want to tailor an educational program along with collaboration with our school district to educate and provide the tools that our kids need now so they can make better choices tomorrow. We came up with a program through many months of hard work, along with the school district, who provided tremendous help in design of this program. It's called the Sworn Educational Program, Educational Curriculum. It is designed to educate our kids about the dangers of marijuana, vaping, alcohol, prescription pills, and the things that we see in the community that we want to address. Bullying, cyberbullying. We've designed it in a way where any kid can have access to it, but we can also have a way to constantly stay in communication with these children. And now we can also provide them any service or tool they need. We want to promote these children to have resilience and stay positive with themselves and always have a chance to see any law enforcement in our community as people who want to help them. We want to build those bridges. The SRO program, every one of these individuals under my supervision are quality officers who want to be with our children. So this is the educational stuff we provide, the things that we do, and constant interaction that we do for these kids. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Does any member of other boards have a question? Supervisor Schutte?
Thank you so much for what you do. As a retired teacher, and I was a health teacher, I would invite officers from Carson City Sheriff's Department to come in and talk to my students. And, you know, it was wonderful in that students then had that opportunity to really get to know the deputies and sergeants and lieutenants and see them as fellow human beings that truly care about the students. And, you know, during the drug unit, we would have Teddy, the golden retriever drug dog, come in. During my family life unit with the babies, we had, at the time, Sergeant Gonzalez come in and really talk about some of the child abuse and neglect. Detective Lowe also spoke, and it really gave these kids an opportunity to really see some real life impact of decisions and choices, and then to also see the Sheriff's Department as a resource. And when you were speaking, and I just love this, so SRO, your educators, coaches, mentors, protectors, what a beautiful gift to our community. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Is there any other comment? Mr. Cassiopo?
Yeah, Sergeant, I just want to thank Sheriff Furlong and you and everybody involved in the SRO program. It truly has been invaluable. And I think, and you touched on it, and Lisa touched on it, those relationships, I think, with the kids are important. It's easy to grow up, and when you don't know something about somebody, you just see a police officer or somebody else. It can be intimidating for some. It can be scary. And you guys are really, guys and girls, men and women, have done a great job of truly developing relationships. And some people may say, well, gee, I don't know if you should be on first name basis, but I think that's great because these kids can feel comfortable with all of you and still have respect for what you do and the role you play. So, you know, we have really benefited from the program. I think our students have, and over the years, I've spoken to a lot of students. So it's not just my opinion, but it's their opinion as well. The vast, vast majority of these students enjoy the SROs. They all have different personalities. Some have been funny and goofy, you know, some a little more serious, but they've been good people that the kids seem to respect and appreciate having you there. So thanks for everything you do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have any further comments? No. And again, thank you so very much for the presentation and it. Great. Sheriff Furlong?
Yep. Just a closing comment. Again, thank you, Mr. Stokes. Could not have done it without you. I appreciate it. And an acknowledgement that these two boards are also represented by what we consider to be a stakeholders group that consists of Partnership Carson City, the Juvenile Services, Miss Allie Bannister's group, the Ron Wood Family Resource Center. All of our stakeholders come together to make sure that we stay on track with what we intended to do and that we continue to do that. They act as a voice of yours. They act as that, and they do a tremendous job for us. So thank you all very, very much.
No, thank you. Thank you. Please thank all of your team. Yeah, all right. We're going to move on to agenda item 6B. This is for discussion and presentation regarding the collaborative efforts between the Carson City School District and the Carson City Health and Human Services Department. Ms. Akers, are you ready? And if you would please do us the honor of the questions from the young lady. We promised that we would have you do those, so would you please do that for the record?
Absolutely. So good evening, Nikki Aker, Director of Carson City Health and Human Services, for the record. And we're going to be discussing our collaborative efforts between the schools and Carson City Health and Human Services involving COVID-19. Our goal is to have a safe environment for those students to keep them in schools. And I'm going to let our school liaison, our biostatistician, give you a brief presentation of what she does. She'll address the first two questions, and I'll address the third one.
Thank you.
Sorry, everyone, this has been bothering me for a minute. Thank you all for the opportunity to speak to you today. So, as Nikki mentioned, my name is Tara Barnett. I think I met quite a few of you last year. I am the Carson City Health and Human Services
biostatistician and liaison. I work with the Quad County schools. Just to talk to you a little bit about, I guess, my credentials. I did study at the university for my master's in public health in epidemiology and graduated with that in 2015. Post that and pre-COVID, I was actually a second-year medical student with hopes and dreams of becoming a pediatrician. So I kind of love the job that I have currently because I also get to help the children in this different way. Thank you all. Mr. Stokes, nice to see you. So I've been asked today to speak to you about the process that we go through in collaboration with the school district and what we're doing to keep the kids safe. So I guess to explain a little bit of the background of the process, each school has applied for and been approved for a CLIA license. CLIA stands for Clinical Laboratory Improvement Amendments. So for example, Carson City School District has their own CLIA license. Under that, there are a number of nurses that work incredibly hard to both detect symptoms in students and test those students as quickly as possible. There are multiple different types of tests. I heard somebody mention earlier PCP, but I think she meant to say PCR. One of the types of tests that we have is a PCR test. It stands for polymerase chain reaction, and it goes in looking at the sequence of the RNA virus. Along with that is a different type of test called an antigen test. This year, we have started to recognize antigen tests at the health department. So the tests that the nurses at each school are administering are antigen tests under Abbott BinaxNOW. So every time that they get a positive test, they're to report that to me within 24 hours. At the end of the week, they also report all negatives, but just to expedite this process, they report those individually. Those cases or labs are then transferred to our investigations department, where we prioritize all of our student investigations above everyone else. Along with that, the school districts also report to me faculty members so that we can identify those cases and prioritize their investigations as well. So for each student, the number one thing that we want to determine is if they attended infectiously or not. You might have heard that spoken about before. That goes hand in hand with the contact tracing process. So if a student attends infectiously, we obviously want to do our best to contact trace on that student. I think that has a lot to do with why things have changed to be the way that they are currently, because with our contact tracing process, a lot of times, especially without masks, we're excluding a large number of students from the classroom. As you may have heard, Carson City School District so far has excluded over 500 students, obviously with the goal of keeping them safe, but along with that has come the goal of keeping students in the classroom so that they can learn. So each...
Excuse me, Tara, would you just run back 1 second there?
Yeah.
Did you say that 500?
500
students?
close contacts. So part of the decision that was made recently to implement the masks is in order to mitigate the number of close contacts that are required to be excluded. So without masks...
Oh, instead of a whole classroom, you only do those 3 feet if they have masks?
Well, currently, if
We're
both
new to this,
students-
sorry.
No, you're okay. These are great questions. I get them every day. So if a student is between 3 to 6 feet from another student, but both students are wearing masks, based on our definition, neither student needs to, or the close contact student doesn't need to be excluded. Currently, because we don't have any masks, exactly what you're describing is happening. You can't contact trace, especially when confounding factors such as the smoke outside and indoor recess are changing the movement patterns of the students and causing a lot higher risk of spread within those groups. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So just as far as different checkpoints and precautions that we have in place to mitigate the risk within the schools, we have an internal report based on the percent that attends infectiously that goes out within the health department every Wednesday. All the epidemiologists kind of join forces to look at that data and see if there's a risk as far as that, in combination with the CSTE definition of an outbreak. Those two things considered together is how we determine if there's an outbreak at a school. So CSTE stands for Council of State and Territorial Epidemiologists. So that's the definition that we're going off of for our outbreak definition. But we also are looking at those other risk factors, such as if there's a very high percentage of students attending infectiously, and obviously we don't have mitigation measures in place such as masks, then we're going to be a lot more concerned. So along with that, last year, the PCR tests that I was describing, those were the only tests that were being recognized. So the state dashboard, in case anyone is interested in the website, it's nvhealthresponse.nv.gov. Those last year were only updated with those PCR tests, but because we are now recognizing those Bionex Now antigen tests as well, every Thursday, the state dashboard is updated with the data, including both PCR and antigen tests. So as of last week, that is all cumulative. Now, I just wanted to talk about a couple other efforts that we have in place to keep everyone on the same page and keep as many kids in the classroom as possible. We have a weekly school district pandemic meeting that has nurses, emergency medicine professionals. We have superintendents such as Richard Stokes, and everyone from the Quad Counties is able to come together to discuss the different issues that we're seeing so we can problem solve together. One thing that I personally do is meet with the school nurses. For example, right now with Carson City School District, I've had 2 meetings so far. We try to keep them pretty regular so that we can discuss all the different issues that we're seeing and make sure that we're on the same page as far as contact tracing and things such as that. So as I mentioned before, we expedite those investigations for children and faculty. And then as soon as the data is gathered regarding who's attending infectiously and whatnot, I actually then report back to the schools who do the contact tracing. So that's our complete cycle. I wanted to make sure that I was also answering the questions of our sweet citizen earlier. So the first 2, she was asking if we're keeping the masks. I wanted to answer that one first. So we are currently masking in the Carson City School District. I think that this is a safe decision. I'm not supposed to give my opinion, but for the second question, and I also think more importantly, our goal going into the school year was to keep as many students in the classroom as possible. So that will help a lot with the contact tracing and not having to exclude massive numbers of students. So I think if we keep the shared goal in mind, then that is understood why we would need to do that. As far as the second question goes, she was asking if we will be testing as much. I don't know if she knows how complicated of a question that is, but currently with the Bionex Now antigen test, there's actually a nationwide shortage. Not a lot of people know about that. Originally, they were intended to be used for athletics predominantly, but we have also, the nurses have generously offered to test close contacts outside of that. We obviously want to prioritize people that are symptomatic to detect any cases. So as far as the testing supplies go, the amount of testing that's going to occur is going to depend on our resources, essentially. So I guess to give a vague answer to that one. And then Nikki was going to talk about the last one. She was speaking about, okay. So she's going to answer that question later, but does anybody have any questions for me? I know that was a lot.
Certainly.
Hi there. Hi. I have a question for you. So one of the things, in addition to this, I'm also a school principal. In this county and also in Lyon County where I work, one of the things we're hearing from our school nurses is how overwhelmed they are. And so I think number one, I want to say to all of our nurses in the Quad County area, thank you, because it's immense what they're doing. But I think I want to bring awareness that not only are they doing COVID testing, they're doing contact tracing. Sometimes they have lines out the door. And that isn't even to mention the job a school nurse has in a school. And so we're running out of tests, like you talked about. They're running out of time. Some of them are staying to work till 8 o'clock at night doing contact tracing. And I'm afraid that we're going to burn these people out. Are there any resources to help our schools with these efforts? And I know the health department is also overwhelmed, but I think that it's hard to come by a school nurse And if we chase them all out of this field, we're going to be in a world of hurt.
Thank you so much for that. I 1000% agree with what you said. These school nurses are invaluable. They are heroes. They are close to my heart. I talk to them on a daily basis. They are very overwhelmed. One great thing that I've seen, especially in Carson City School District, that administrators have done in noticing this kind of burnout that's happening is taking the initiative in either hiring other employees or outsourcing to other professionals in the school district that are able to help with the contact tracing. So in Carson City School District specifically, there's recently been a team of 13 social workers that Ann Sear and I were able to train just a couple weeks ago in contact tracing. So now, rather than having the nurses do all the contact tracing by themselves, we're able to outsource that work as well and hopefully get them home at a reasonable hour, not working on weekends. That's definitely one of my primary goals as well. So we've seen that in Carson City, and I think other school districts are also following suit in many ways, in different ways, but with the same goal in mind, in just making the team bigger. Because as the burden of coronavirus grows, we need a stronger and bigger team to fight it. So, did that answer your question?
It does. It's just, I think the problem's only going to get worse. I think what we're seeing in schools, it's like a wildfire. Like we're seeing what's happening in California. It's like once it starts going, it's spreading, and it's hard to contain it sometimes.
I completely agree. And I can't tell you how many of them were ecstatic when they heard about the masks going back on, because it gives them just a glimmer of hope that they won't have to continue this throughout the school year, because quite honestly, it's just not sustainable. Emotionally, mentally, not sustainable. So.
Ms. Schutte?
I would like to, during public comment, a couple people spoke about masks and about the size of particles and particulates being able to go through the mask. And then when you were speaking about the close contact and the contact tracing, and how when kids are in close contact and they're both wearing masks, it allows more people to stay in the classroom. Can you go into that a little bit further?
Yeah, absolutely. So regarding the particles and being able to make it through, I don't think these are not meant to prevent any particles from going through, but they do help. And as far as the definition goes, that's based on updated CDC guidance. And originally, like last year, each close contact was anybody within 6 feet for 15 minutes or more with or without a mask. There have been exemptions now for students, I think with also the goal in mind of keeping as many students in the classroom as possible. So that is not something that we came up with, but just following guidance. So I'm grateful that there was a guidance change. And in a lot of ways, it's made things a lot easier. On buses, for example, all the students are wearing masks. So rather than trying to chase down every student that was on a bus infectiously, we can have some reassurance that those students were safer than if they were not wearing their masks.
So a reduction in particulate matter, so reducing the chance
Yes,
of spread. Thank you.
Of course.
Ms. Wilkie?
Thank you. I'd like to thank you for your presentation, especially pointing out that all these decisions that you're basing your things on are from data.
Oh,
and we've heard that over and over again, that we're not looking at data and we're not listening to data. So I appreciate you bringing that up and making that known, that we are looking at data. You are basing these decisions on that data, and I appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am. No problem at all. We do not take these decisions lightly whatsoever.
So can you tell me, have you seen a largely expanded caseload in the youth arena if we looked at the under 18? So if I were to chart back for Carson City and look where we were on a chart for the youth, are you seeing a steep incline in children with
Yes,
COVID?
I am, ma'am. Yeah, I did bring some data with me. So I brought some Carson City School District data and Quad County data and if I'm to look at it, every 2-week MMWR period. MMWR stands for Morbidity Mortality Weekly Report. So we're looking at data over a 2-week period to see that, or to make sure that we're accounting for any outliers. Every time that I do a new report, the number has almost doubled. So to answer your question somewhat vaguely, but not bore you with numbers, that is concerning to me, definitely.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for the presentation.
Oh, of course.
You know, one of the concerns I hear at every one of our board meetings for the past, I think we're up to 4 months or so now, is regarding the CDC. And so because of that, I'm fortunate to know some people in other countries that are in the medical field, and I'm asking them, and they seem like they're all going through the same kind of stuff we're going through, and I don't know that they necessarily follow the CDC, but it seems like their guidance is roughly the same. I'm sure there's some differences somewhere. But when we look at, when we talk about COVID, you know, the general discussion is, just looking at COVID is, you know, it's, you have so many people getting it, and you have this small percentage of people dying from it. And it is a small percentage, I get that, but what we don't talk about often is long-term effects from it. And I don't know, it's not fair to ask you what those are now, but I would like to maybe send you guys, Nikki, some questions regarding that, or, you know, what are you seeing from your data on long-term effects from COVID?
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to reply to your email. There hasn't really been a lot of time gone by to really determine what the long-term effects are, unfortunately, but there have been some research studies, so if you have like specific questions, I'd be happy to look up the research, the current research on that, and get back to you if that's
Great,
okay.
thank you.
Of course.
Anybody else? Ms. Krasner?
Just a clarifying question, because when you were talking about the every 2-week period and that the number has doubled, I just wanted to clarify, was that the number of COVID cases in ages 18 and under? Because I think that was the question before, but I just wanted to make sure, because.
Yes, I'm actually very glad that's the population that I pay attention to the most. Yes, it was in the student cases.
Okay.
Specifically. The faculty, Carson City School District amazes me. We had an intern at the health department over the summer do a research study to look at their vaccination records. Theirs are amazing, above what we see across the country. So I think that has an effect on the staff cases, because those have, thank you for asking that question, those have stayed relatively steady. It is really the students that I'm mostly concerned about.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you so much.
Of course, and I think we have one more question that Nikki was going to answer.
Ms. Aker? Thank you.
So you can imagine how busy Tara is with all of this. This is just one county, so I wish our young lady had stayed for the answers to these questions, but her last question was, are you aware that the swabs you testing with are dipped in ethylene oxide, a cancer-causing substance? And I can't catch what her last, and you are testing something. It didn't make sense. But so the answer to that is ethylene oxide sterilization. It's an important sterilization method that manufacturers use widely to keep medical devices safe. And it's for many medical devices, sterilization with ethylene oxide may be the only method that is effectively sterilizing and does not damage the device during sterilization process. Literature, and this is from the FDA, literature shows that about 50% of all sterile medical devices in the US are sterilized with ethylene oxide. For ethylene oxide sterilization, 2 consensus standards, and I won't bore you with reading these standards, but I can get that information to you if you're interested. They describe how to develop, validate, and control ethylene oxide sterilization processes for medical devices, and the acceptable levels of residual ethylene oxide left on a device after it undergoes the process. These standards help ensure levels of ethylene oxide on medical devices are within safe limits, since long-term and occupational exposure to large amounts of ethylene oxide has been linked to cancer.
May I ask, does it say how long has it been in use? Is this something new, or 20 years, or?
It doesn't say here, but I know, my background is the operating room, and I've known about ethylene oxide
age yourself?
sterilization throughout my career.
Okay, she doesn't want to age herself to how long, but as long as you can remember. It's not something
As long
new.
as I have been a registered nurse.
Okay, thank you.
Which has been many years.
Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Akers? No? Oh, Mr. Jones, thank you.
Pardon me. Nikki, I'm led to believe that there's a limited amount of the rapid test kits available for the schools. Is that true, and how do they get more?
So, yeah, on one of the call last week, they do have tests right now, but it's going to be running out quickly as how they're using them at the moment. There is a shortage nationwide, but we're talking with the state and trying to get more in-house, and so it's something we're working on through the state processes, and possibly it could be through how we're doing some of the testing.
Further questions? Seeing none, thank you so very much, and thank you for answering her questions. I thought she did a great job tonight. So we're going to move on to agenda item 6C, which is discussion and presentation on an overview of residential development activity in Carson City. Ms. Sullivan, I see you've already queued it up.
Yes,
She's ready
ma'am.
to go. Thank you.
Hope Sullivan, I'm the Community Development Director. It's nice to meet the school board. I've asked the school's business manager, AJ Fueling, to join me on this presentation. I did that for two reasons. One, I'd like both the Board of Supervisors and the school board to recognize how closely we work with the school district staff, particularly Mark Cornick, AJ Fueling, and Mark Johnson, but Mr. Stokes, it's under your leadership that I know we have that level of cooperation, and the city manager's leadership as well. But every project we look at that's residential, we're looking at it to see how is this impacting schools? What school is it going to? And we're in constant conversations. Staff from the school districts participates in applicant meetings with us when we're first looking at development projects. So they have the opportunity to ask questions, get input, and understand what's going on really early on. Also, I didn't want to present development and not give the school board in particular an understanding of how it would impact schools. So I'll review the development, and then AJ will speak to how it will impact the schools. First, we're going to talk about the census data. The 2020 census data is relative, there's not a whole lot out there. Having said that, what I've put up, it shows that our population in Carson City has grown from 2000 to 2010 to 2020. But when we look at the under 18 cohort, it's decreased with each census data set. So both in whole numbers as well as in proportion of population. So we've gone from 23% in 2000 to 21% in 2010 to 19% in 2020. And AJ is prepared to talk more specifically about what this looks like and how it translates into the classes. In terms of new housing starts, to date, we have 115 new housing starts. And that means we've issued building permits for residential homes. They could be multifamily or single-family detached. And that will be important at the end because AJ will look at the anticipated school attendance based on the type of housing it is, whether it's a multifamily housing or single family. So where are these houses under construction? I'm not going to talk about entitlements. I'm going to talk about things that are literally being built as we speak. We have a lot of entitlements in the queue, and I post those monthly on our website. And again, the school district staff's aware of what's in the queue, what's under construction. But in terms of where the house is going vertical, that's how we refer to it. Well, first I'll just mention it's throughout the city. You can see it's from the very northern part of the city to the very southern part of the city, but it's all sort of in the core of the city, so it's all infill development. But because of the distance from north to south, it's going to impact your schools differently. Arbor Villas is on Little Lane. That has 147 single-family homes. It's an attached parcel or an attached unit. 54 of those homes have been permitted, so they're about a third of the way in. Blackstone Ranch, that's Ryder Homes. That's just starting to go vertical. You can see in that picture, they just framed it. I was out there a week ago, it was only a foundation, so I waited so I'd get a better picture, and it got smoky. But that will be 189 homes. They've only permitted 4 of those so far, but it's good to see Lampa Ranch is getting to go. Jackson Village is kind of behind JCPenney. It's the colorful houses. They have 41 homes approved, 30 have been permitted. So I think all their exteriors are done, and it's the interior lots that are left. Little Lane Village, that's right next door to Arbor Villas. They're going very quickly. They have pulled 10 permits so far. If you go by there a week ago, or I think a month ago, I presented to the Board of Supervisors, and it was just framing. And then I saw they already had gone this far. I said, oh, I need new pictures. So they're moving really quickly. They will have 149 units. Mills Landing is across from Mills Park. That's 142 units, and they have 106 permits so far, so about 2/3 done. Schultz Ranch is in the southern portion of the city, off Topsy, and so they have 101 lots that they can create in Phase 4. 69 have been permitted. Schultz Ranch Phase 5 is just it's a newer phase of Schultz Ranch. 29 lots, and they have permits for 9 on 9 of those lots. Silver Oak 23B, and Silver Oak has a ways to go, but they have 29 lots in this particular phase, and they pulled permits on 9 of those. So the next set of slides are going to be where people are doing what's called horizontal work or site work, and they haven't gone vertical yet. Again, this one actually was interesting when I mapped it because I saw that we were either really far south or really far north, and we kind of lost the middle. But if you come back in a couple months, we'll have the middle filled in because I have some stuff in the queue. Clearview Ridge, that's off Cochise in the southwestern part of the city. They have 73 lots. They have roads in, infrastructure in, and they're starting their second phase. Emerson Cottages, that's if you go north on Roop, right before you get to the freeway overpass. It's right on the right side traveling north, and that will be 37 lots. Silvercrest Condominiums, that's right there on the corner of Roland and Oak where there used to be a church, and that will be 51 lots. I'm sorry, it's condominiums, so 51 units. Silverview Townhomes, that's Mark Turner, has that under construction right now at Clearview and Silver Sage, and that will be 34 attached units. And then another Silver Oak Phase 24, he's doing site work there. That will be 64 more lots in Silver Oak. So now AJ will speak to you about how does this translate into students?
Thank you, Hope. AJ Fueling for the record. I think Hope understated how much we all work together between the district and the city. and how well we work together. So we really appreciate the level of communication that we have with her department in the city. So I don't have a true projection of each individual development that Ms. Sullivan discussed tonight, but I wanted to give you an idea of what, I guess, where we thought we were with a study that we had done a couple years back, and then what I believe we're seeing. And by saying I believe is through kind of a brute force manual method, going through 8,000 students-ish in the district, looking at addresses and trying to figure out if they live in these places, which was fun. But so that's why I don't know that these are perfect numbers. We will be doing another study here later in the fall, once enrollment stabilizes, to kind of get a more accurate detail of it. But with the study that we had done back in 2019, which was using data from the prior 5 years, this company that we work with, Davis Demographics, they had come up based on historical data, looking between Carson and Reno, that they would expect with a single-family detached home that we would generate or yield, as I say in that industry, about 33.5 students per every 100 units that are built. With multifamily units or apartments, or like townhomes and apartments, they came up with 31.3 students per 100 units. So based on the development we have seen and how many students I believe live in these areas, came up with kind of the yield factors, what I think is really happening. So, and one point I put in here, because it's something we talk about quite a bit, are the values of homes around Carson City. And that ultimately, I think, is having some impact on this. So Jackson Village, which is very colorful, those are selling for about $360,000. I just saw a sign up there driving by the other day that there's new ones going in for about $400,000. Right now, with about 30 units up, we have 4 students coming from Jackson Village. Schultz Ranch, which right now $550,000, but truly that's been going on for some time, and the prices were lower at one point in time. But with about 370 homes built, we have about 62 students coming from that area. Red Leaf, which is over in the Silver Oak area, those homes about 680,000, and we have 3 kids coming out of about 29 homes. And so you can see the ratios then at the end: 13.3, 16.8, 10.3, which is still generating kids. And I tried to sort out as well what I believe are new students to the area, not just families within Carson that moved, which is, I'll be able to get a better feel for that once I have this company redo the study for us. But there was about 20 kids across that I think were already Carson students. But again, well less than the 33.5. And altogether, in those single-family detached, we're getting about 69 students district-wide. In the multifamily, Arbor Villas, about $300,000, about 8 students out of 40 units. Mills Landing on the north side of town, or north of 50 at least. A little more expensive, we have 6 students out of about 100 units. And then Carson Hills, which is the apartment complex, and Hope didn't mention that one, but that was one that our principal at Bordewick Bray was really worried about, because that area was zoned for her school initially. But so those are the large apartment complex behind Fandango. Is 370 units. There's 18 students coming from there, and clearly they're apartments, but putting up the rent prices, which are close to mortgages for most people, generating about 4.9 kids per 100 units, about 32 altogether. So that's it. Are there any questions on that slide?
So can I ask Mr. Fueling, oh, maybe you have it on another slide, since you just said slide, but.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, I was going to just ask for the overall enrollment, because while you're talking about new students coming in from a development, are we losing students? And therefore, the impact is truly actually
Right.
mitigated?
No, that's a great question. And it's not as straightforward as an answer as I would like it to be. And one of the problems we have too is early in a school year, our enrollment tends to be pretty volatile. So that is starting to smooth out now. And so these are the best numbers I had as of, I think, 4 or 5 days ago when I sent this to Ms. Sullivan. But I also added in the 1920 school year. So one of the, I guess, given the presentations tonight and the topics tonight, just to look at kind of what the impact was to the school district as far as losing students last year and then how that has translated then into this year. And I wish I would have chosen different colors that stand out a little better, so I do apologize. But I guess just first, you have the 2019-2020 school year, 2021-22, which is the current school year. At the very top, you have pre-K numbers. We in no way project enrollment or have any expectation of enrollment based off pre-K because those seats are limited. They are defined by the state. We get a certain amount of funding. We can only have so many seats. But I still put them up there, I guess at least to see that last year we lost some students that were within the pre-K programs, but this year clearly some came back. Within kindergarten, in the prior year, or two years prior, 537, and then now hovering under 5, or last year under 500, this year right around 500. Those are historically small kindergarten classes. And one of the things we have really noticed, I mean, especially in the last 3-4 years, is the kindergarten classes tend to be getting smaller district-wide. So when you're looking at then, say, kindergarten last year, it's not as important then when you're getting into projecting enrollment and kind of thinking of impact and maybe changes in families and changes in decisions. It's not as important to look at kindergarten one year to kindergarten the next year. It's more important to look at kindergarten one year to first grade the next year because you have those same families following. And in this world, in my world, they call that survival, which isn't the best term, I think, but that's what it is. How do they survive from one year to the next? And so when you looking just from the 2020-21 school year to this year, kindergartners to first graders, we actually added about 45 students, and that's the column off to the far right. So while our kindergarten class last year was small, there's been a lot of kids that have added in. And as you may or may not know, families don't have to send their kids to kindergarten when they're 5 years old or 6 years old. That is not required in the state of Nevada. So when COVID hit and that 2021 school year started, families don't even have to notify us to let us know they're not going to send their kids to school. You just don't have to. So the first grade picture kind of tells us a little bit more maybe about how many families chose to stay out at that point for whatever reason. And then really just focusing on that right-hand column from there, that kind of survival method of looking at class sizes, you can see that year over year, especially grades K through 8, we've had increases. So kids have come back in each of those grade levels. When you get to the high school level, 9th grade is, I'd say, a little surprising historically. Usually there's some growth there. But otherwise, in 11th and 12th grade, usually we do see some reduction in the class sizes. Overall, on the totals, you can see the numbers of students. And then in that projection, we initially had done what the enrollment was expected to be. So 2 years ago, that projection came in at 7802, and we were at 7811, which is pretty close. The following years, and this study was fairly in-depth, and they worked with the city, got information on all the developments going up using these yield factors that I talked about on the prior slide, and looking at historical birth rates. They take all these types of things in consideration, and really they expected that growth to happen quickly. And so COVID clearly has put that on a detour. And how that will recover over time, I think is dependent on a lot of factors. But the last thing, so then when you look at that right-hand column overall, we've, between those classes represented, basically students who were with the district last year and this year, we're up about 63. But the big difference is actually at the very bottom then. So when you look at the current year kindergarten class, but compare it to last year's 12th graders. So we had a class leave of 12th graders that have gone on to better things, but you have a kindergarten class coming in. And again, these kindergarten classes, especially with COVID, have shrunk quite a bit. And so you had a 12th grade class last year of 593 being replaced by a class of 500 at this point this year. So that's ultimately where you have that downward trend. So when I look at this, so overall, it looks like more kids are coming back within the grade levels. There's growth in the city, things are happening. But still, you have that kindergarten, 12th grade relationship that has still impacted the overall enrollment. So, and why that is, lots of factors. And again, going back, home values clearly are higher, and for young families, that can be hard to afford. So that may be impacting. COVID still may be impacting. We don't really know. But it's something that we clearly will be watching over the years.
Thank you so very much. Does anyone have a question for Mr. Fueling? Seeing none, thank you so very much. That's interesting data. Thank you, Ms. Sullivan, too, for your help tonight in the presentation. We're going to move on to item 60 on the agenda, which is the capital projects in the Carson City School District. Mr. Cornick, are you? There he is. Thank you. Please take us through this agenda item.
You want me to do it for you? I can just. Yeah, I just turned it upside.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, okay. I can
And
just
we do
stand.
have the handout of your
Okay, perfect.
presentation if we have.
Sit down, Mark, sit down.
Yeah.
I've been sitting.
Oh, he's, I wanna, thank you.
I'll try it here so I
Yeah.
can stand up.
Oh, good.
Mayor Bagwell, city supervisors, school district trustees, and Mr. Stokes, good evening. Thank you for having me tonight. Seems like every time I come up here, everybody leaves the room. But I do have some, being a operator and a facilities geek, I think I got some really cool pictures for you tonight.
All right, we like pictures.
So I'm here to update you on our three main capital projects this year. The first one is Eagle Valley Middle School's expansion project. It's approximately 21,000 square feet and costs approximately $14 million. All right, so Van Werper is the architect on this, and our CMAR construction manager at risk is Core Construction. As you can see, we have 10 classrooms going in, a couple STEM labs, and collaborative common area, remodeled computer rooms, remodeled choir room. Former smart lab is being remodeled into a choir room. Offices, teacher workrooms, staff general use restrooms, storage space, and there's actually a cooling tower replacement as well. And then a courtyard for outside learning and a space for future hoop house. Eagle Valley Middle School is going to be running a CTE program this year in agriculture. So this is we're planning for the future. What this does is basically give both middle schools the same population, some room for growth, and equivalent programming between the two schools. These are renderings from the architect. It may not be exactly what the buildings are looking like, but it's the concept, the rendering concept of it. This is the eastern view. And this is kind of the south, looking from the, at the southwest corner of the addition. Courtyard is right behind. We also have an overall site plan here so that you can see where the construction is. The construction is in those green areas. So it's off the back portion of the main building. And then up between Carson River Road and our upper parking lot, we've built a parent-student drop-off area. That area is operating now. There's also quite a bit of parking in there, more than we lost in the project. And we're hoping that that can ease some of that traffic on 5th Street. This is a picture of that drop-off area as they were building it. And you're kind of looking to the west, to the mountain range to the west there. And this is looking more to the east, coming down to a turnaround where the parents will come around and head out to 5th Street. And this is one-way traffic all the way through there. And this was when they were doing the work. I just thought it was a really cool picture. We had 2 weeks ago, we did foundation pour. So this is for all the different foundations, and we started a layer of our CMU block. It'll be mostly block building. And then you start your rebar in that process as well. As you can see to the right there is a little blue swimming pool. That's what it's going to be for the students. When they come back, they'll have their own pool at the school.
We're actually listening, so that was good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Diving board's in the next phase.
Yeah.
That worked. This was another picture of the pour. There's some challenges with that site with building, so the concrete's coming in from far away. And as you can expect, there's some challenges with materials as well. So we will be building the walls before we have the roof on, because the steel for the metal deck is what's holding up some of the process. But I have to tell you, Cora has been really innovative in how they're working this project every day. There's a ton of people working there. First row of block with the rebar. And then we had a early morning pour up on the parent drop-off, and this is the crew building the speed humps that are going to be along there. And there it is, actually a speed table, you would call it. This is the slab being poured early morning. And one of our principals lives right behind where that's being poured and said it never woke him up, so I was happy to hear that. At 3 o'clock in the morning pour. So it's getting lighter, and they're troweling and doing the work on the slab. Also a really interesting picture of the slab back to the main school. And then blocks started going up. This was about a week ago Friday, when they did quite a bit. You could see about 5 tiers of block. And today it's at least twice that. So they're really moving along quickly. Not forgetting anything. And that's kind of that same picture. As you can see, our pool's not going to make it. And so
Gone.
So Mr. Conley kind of has this urban legend about there's a pool on top of the school. And he tells the kids this, so I think he's going to have to keep that going, because that's not going to work. All right, so that was the exterior. I wanted to just show you a handful of photos of interior renderings. So a lot of the colors, the carpet and that are what's going to be in the schools, but the shape of the rooms and that may not be exactly this way. But this is a standard classroom. There'll be 5 downstairs and 5 upstairs with the monitor on the wall, whiteboard paint for instruction around the classroom. And this is a photo looking down the hall. All 5 classrooms will be along that wall where the benches are there. And right to the left is the new STEM lab. This is the what we're calling a collaborative commons area, where they can use for a workspace for one-on-one instruction. That's the glass area is the STEM lab, and it also has a glass roll-up door which connects straight across from it from another glass roll-up to the outside outdoor education area. An interior view of the rendering of the STEM lab. And then this is the other side of the collaborative workspace or collaborative hallway there, going out into the courtyard. This view is looking west up the upper hallway. There'll be, you'll enter this space from an existing window, which will feed into this hallway, and it bridges over to the second story. You'll notice a lot of the piping is exposed and will be labeled so that we can use the building as an educational tool as well. There's kind of an educational kind of nook area right there. Again, the upper collaborative area. And then this is the upper STEM lab on the second floor. So it'll be 7th and 8th grades, 1 on each floor. And then lastly, this is kind of a gathering area. That wall there will have a TV there, so all the announcements will be done there, and those will be done in the green room that'll be in one of the STEM labs so that the kids can have their own TV station, do the announcements, etc. And then you'll have the washroom next to it and the STEM room or STEM lab on the other side. Lastly, I just threw in kind of the floor plan to the second floor. It's mirrored on the lower floor pretty much. As I was explaining, on the upper side where those 2 doors are swinging by the center blue arrow, that's where it meets the main building, and there's a big cathedral window right there. That'll turn into the doorway into the bridge that takes you to the new section, second story. And then to the left of that, where the other blue arrow is, to the left, is going to be a remodeled computer lab. And you could never get to that room. You could only get to that room through the front room previously. So now we'll come out. There's an outside door there that we can use, and we can hit that hallway so that they have better access and egress. Is there any questions on that, Eagle Valley?
Does anyone have any questions on Eagle Valley?
Yeah, just, I am a Carson High graduate, but I was not a math major, but I just did a quick calculation. And are you at $667 a square foot?
Yes, right around there.
I mean,
it's not where we started.
Holy mackerel.
But
is that FF&E or no FF&E?
Oh, that's FF&E as well.
Okay.
We feel better.
It's a little
Still
better.
bad.
It's a little better,
Yes,
because in a
still
school,
bad.
that's, That's pretty high, but,
But still.
wow, wow.
There is quite a bit of FF&E, but
Yeah.
still.
Do you know what you are just, I mean, I'm just curious because of,
Yeah.
without FF&E in terms of just building construction?
Just building construction?
Yeah.
Just construction is more like 12.
So it's not that much better.
Right, but then you have all of the consultants and the engineering, the architects.
Right, of course, yeah.
All
Yeah,
those
yeah, yeah.
costs.
We were just
Understood.
trying to pull out the computers and things like that
Yeah,
separately.
yeah.
Maybe,
I was just gonna mention, as of about a year or two ago, the new high schools that Washoe County are building are in excess of $220 million for their new high schools. So the cost of construction has just exploded for us too, smaller terms.
And I mean, just when we first got it bidded and we had it, we've almost doubled in our cost because of materials, basically.
Yeah.
So we had to.
We originally planned at 8.2 million, I think, for it. But we did make it a little bit larger and added a few things to it. But you're right. It's crazy in construction right now.
Yeah.
And you can't find workers. So.
Right, yeah, yeah. Well, in my other hat, I'm a facilities geek like you, so I just wanted to confirm that that number was, I don't have budgets like that at my nonprofit. I'll just say that.
I actually had that number written down in case someone asked to. So you're correct. Our next project here is the expansion and remodel of the district office. This is Berger Hannafin is the architect here in town, and the contractor is K7 Construction in Reno. This is a phase 2 project of the remodel. Phase 1 was completed in 2005. And so it was about time to get the rest of the building taken care of. Okay. Just a quick layout. The green area is the addition that will house Educational Services Department. And then throughout the orange area, we'll have HVAC upgrades. There's actually a chiller that cools the east side of the building. That was phase 1. And the west side still had package units on top of the roof. And so now we'll connect to that chiller that has capacity to get better conditioning for the whole building. And we had to have to replace all the ductwork in the building as well, or in the orange and green section. And then phase 3 of this project is to refresh the rest of the affected area to the west with new ceiling, paint, carpeting, and new windows. We'll also have a new entryway to the building. In the back of the building, behind the green area, we're also, we did an add-on to this and added a backup generator for the building. So all of our IT is housed in that building. Just a quick rendering of the expansion portion. It's about 970 square feet in there. And this is the current picture of it as of a few days ago, where we are with it. The interior of that building currently. And then this is Mr. Stokes' office. I had to throw that in there. This is what it's looking like, starting, gonna get insulation and the walls furred out and no pool. And unfortunately, the paneling was taken out too. He almost cried, I think.
He was saying we could just leave it just like that to save some money.
He actually said he wanted it nice for the next person.
Yeah.
And then this is the main hallway going outside. This is what condition it's in right now. And many of those rooms within there will get new carpeting and paint, and some of the workstations will be rebuilt in our cabinet shop. And then this is currently the entryway. The slump stone little wall next to the steps will have a monument sign on there with our logo. And then there's an ADA ramp. And then the storefront will get redone, an aluminum storefront, new front door, and some minimal zero-scape landscaping. Questions on the district office? I got one more to show you.
Have any questions? I don't see any questions. Please proceed.
All right, so this is the high school turf replacement project, and I don't know if anybody's been out there. It's done, and it looks nice. Lloyd Sports Engineering was our consultant on this. They built most of the turf fields in Nevada. Great people to work with in Incline Village. And then SNC Construction was the general contractor. In the end zone areas, we did a little bit of grading adjustment and irrigation adjustment on the field. Artificial turf fields do have irrigation, and occasionally they go on, especially when the kids are practicing in 100-degree weather in the summer. And then this was one of the options that we were looking at. Our team included our athletic director and our consultants, and then Mark Johnson really spearheaded this project. So this kind of showed what the field would look like, and we had a couple different choices. This was number one, especially with our athletic director. So this is a completed project. The field is done, and then we also have completed repairs on the track and restriped the track. Just kind of more of the senator zoom in. And then an end zone shot looking to the north at the baseball and softball fields. Last slide for you. This is, we put together just a quick spreadsheet on additional work that was done this summer. And these were capital and major maintenance projects. Flooring, roofing, painting, did some sealing, seal coat and asphalt work in our parking lots, concrete replacement, doors and hardware. We have to do a big chunk every year to replace a lot of the really old doors that aren't operating properly. Gym floors, we did not do them last year, so this year we put a little bit into those. And then we had a couple bathroom and kinder areas at Empire where we replaced carpet and refreshed their bathrooms, those kind of things. And removed some old chimneys that were failing and weren't needed at Pioneer. Any questions?
Does any member have a question? Other side? I don't see anything. I want to thank you so very much for the presentation. It's, I think I'm still in shock on the price tag. We're going to be looking to potentially do a major capital project, and I'm getting afraid our CIP plan's not going to have enough money for it. So you're not giving me hope. I know, it's like, oh, not good. So no one else? Thank you so very much. We're going to move on to agenda item 6E, which is for discussion only, and a presentation on the condition and activities associated with the start of the 21-22 school year. Mr. Stokes, this is you. Thank you. We're almost done.
Mrs. Mayor, Board of Trustees, Board of Supervisors, President Cassiopo, thank you for this opportunity to speak with you this evening. Being that we're just 3 weeks into school, I thought you might enjoy a little look back, and at the same time, understand a little bit about some of the things that we're working on right now. Just to take you back to last year, we didn't know what to expect, like you guys didn't know what to expect with the pandemic. We had a lot of fear, we were uncertain. We came together in May and June, with a group of citizens and educators who helped us put together a hybrid schedule. This was something that was completely new. It provided some specific procedures to go forth, but it really reduced the amount of time that students had in front of teachers. So we learned a lot as we went, but in essence, that hybrid model had all of our student body broken down into 2 cohort groups. And that, in essence, we just cut the whole student body in half. And then on 2 days a week, those kids went to school, and on the 2 other days of the week, the other half of the kids went to school, and then on Monday, we had no students in school at all, but that day was used by our teachers to get ready for presenting lessons using technology. So that was a new thing. So if you think about the 200 plus years, really, that education has evolved in the United States, we were bringing a whole unique system to bear. And every day was a change in how we did things, which made our whole previous 199 years, or however long we've been doing this, different. And so it was challenging. We struggled internally as teachers, as educators, because the programs that we were presenting to our kids they didn't look like what we were used to. We didn't have the students in front of us all the time. It's really difficult to look at a computer screen and to try to understand what that student needs. We felt badly for many of our students. Some of the activities that you and I had as we were students were unavailable. About December time, the NIAA made an attempt to bring athletics and activities back to our students, but that came with a shortened season, and in some cases, like basketball and wrestling, those events could not be done because of close contact. And so there were certain things that couldn't occur. A lot of the programs that we have at Carson High School, like career and technical education, band, music, choir, those things could not be done because of the travel restrictions, and consequently there was a year there where there was a lot of the work and the activities that were experienced through virtual means. And I got to hand it to the educators and the students. They thrived in this situation. They were able to take events that typically were done face-to-face, and they were actually able to do those by virtual means. I don't think they were anybody's favorite way to do it, but still, they met the need. By the time we got to spring, things were starting to change. We were getting a handle on COVID. We had vaccinations. We had a lot of the treatments that were being successful in hospitals. And so we started to see the rate of COVID numbers going down. When we got to junior prom time, and if you remember the junior prom just before, we actually didn't have one because school was canceled, and it was really tough. And a lot of kids who, as ninth graders, were looking forward to all of those events that were going to happen in their lives. They were just changed. And so with last year's junior prom, they opened the building up. Instead of just using the gymnasium as the focal point, they were able to use the entire school and use that social distancing concept to have the event. So we were getting better at having school and doing those kinds of things and just thinking different. There was a lot of really creative things that happened as a result. Then by the time we got to graduation, that was a great time. We had an in-person graduation. We filled up that beautiful stadium that we have here in our city. And we also started seeing some different reactions to the attendees. We had all of our students were wearing masks, all of our staff, but if you looked out into the audience, there was hardly anybody wearing masks. And of course, if you remember, that was also about the time that the governor gave back decision-making to the local governments. So this, I tell you about all the, or remind you, I guess, because you lived it with us, but remind you of these steps that happened as we got more comfortable with COVID and as we were able to make some changes. So for this year, we had great hope. We've been in school now for not quite 3 weeks, and already we have closed down classrooms, we've closed down the school for several days. We've had to react to certain conditions. So even though we felt like we were starting with a great plan, school happens. And we were anticipating being able to have all of our programming back in place. Kids were going to be on campus 5 days a week. And we started having to follow conditions and events that were associated with COVID. And in a very short amount of time, in that 3rd week, we started having and seeing students that were getting ill because they were now back at school. On the first day of school, we actually encountered students that had COVID and also staff that had COVID, but we knew that they weren't getting infected at school. That had come from whatever was going on in their world at the time. So we knew about 10 days into the system, that's when we'd start seeing school-related cases. And it really has caused a challenge for our staff members. You've heard about the work that has been done with our health department and our health department within the school district. And it has been challenging because not only with COVID, but we've also, of course, had the smoky skies. And when you combine those two, you start having a lot of staff members and students that don't come. Runny noses, sore throats, and sometimes those conditions are actually associated with COVID symptoms. So we got all of these things going on, and when you don't have all your staff coming to work, and if you don't have enough substitutes to go around, pretty soon you have staff members trying to compensate and work during times when typically they might have that period of time for a prep period or doing something else that they're assigned to do at the school. And so our staff's really working hard after just 3 weeks at school. And it's taking a toll. Another interesting thing that's going on right now that you might not have thought about, but as we've been opening up our public buildings for the evacuees from the South Lake Tahoe area, we're actually enrolling students that have been displaced from those areas as well. So they've come to a place where now they're sitting in a gymnasium or in some other temporary structure, and rather than sitting in those buildings, they're coming to our schools and enrolling. I think I was told that the number today was 9 students, so it's not a lot, but we're grateful that we're able to do some help. I was grateful for the discussion that happened earlier because about masks, because just yesterday, I made the announcement that we were going back to having face masks for at least a month. So this is a temporary approach. But one of the things that was happening is because we were getting so many students that were coming to school and they were exhibiting symptoms, and then we were testing them and we were getting positive results. If you think about a kindergarten classroom, you've got 25 kids that sit on the floor, move to the board, move around the room, are up or down, in and out of the classroom, and teachers aides who are supporting that work. And it's really difficult when no one is wearing a mask to know just exactly who was in close contact with whom. And so the concept here for putting the masks back on the kids for a temporary period of time is to reduce the number of students that are excluded from school. It was mentioned that over 500 kids at the end of the last school week we had to exclude. And many of those kids probably won't get sick, but because we could not do that close contact tracing, we knew that we had some challenges. And unless we were going to continue putting those students back at home, maybe like what they experienced last year, and that was not what we wanted. You heard Tara say tonight over and over, we wanted to do whatever it was going to take to keep those kids in person and on campus so that well, there was new vocabulary that we learned called learning loss. This was just because kids weren't around their teachers as long as they had been in the past. And so being able to have those students in front of their teachers is really important. And so that's an event, a concept that we're going to be returning to over and over if we do have ongoing conditions associated with COVID. I'd like to give a shout out here to Mr. Cornick. Glad he's still here. Appreciate his presentation. He's also been very important in our operational concepts. When you've got an infectious disease like COVID and you've also got wildfire smoke, it certainly impacts the ability of us to operate as we are used to. Our system is an industrial-sized air handling system. We've got hospital quality air filters. We do whatever we can to manage the temperature and the working conditions of our staff and our students. That's been challenging with the smoke and with the air quality. So we've got systems down that has allowed us to shut off those outside air exchanges, but still allows us to cool the air. And that's important as we've got students and teachers that are staying indoors now for longer periods of time because of the air quality outside. We provide, as a school district, thanks to consideration from the Board of Supervisors and also from the federal government, we have a nice stock of personal protective equipment and sanitizing materials that help us to get through each day. If you think about all the cafeteria tables and teachers' desks and doorknobs and just hallway doors and windows that kids touch all the time, we want to do what we can. And so in addition to just wiping down and cleaning the building on a regular basis, we've also been blessed with some devices and material that allows us to fog large areas of the schools. And these areas, like the nurses' offices that are used heavily, our cafeterias, our hallways, classrooms, all of these things are able to be serviced essentially by this fogging process, which by using a sanitizing material is able to kill some of the bacteria, certainly all of the bacteria that is well, I should say maybe 99% of the bacteria and viruses that are contagious to our students. So lastly, just a little look into the future here. We want our students to be able to experience school in the best way possible. We want to keep our schools open, and so we are going to take steps that we feel are necessary based on the information that we're receiving on a weekly basis, trying to keep our people healthy and happy. It's important that our staff members are able to have the support and the security that they need as well. We want our students to be able to continue in the activities. Right now, the NIAA has provided standards and guidance for us to be able to have football and soccer and marching band and cheerleading and all of those things that are important in a high school experience. And most importantly, we want to keep our kids engaged in school. We want them to have the experience that is usual and customary so that they can look back on their school time with fondness. They can prepare for the future. They can do all those things that will help to move them ahead. So we expect that conditions will continue to change around us. We have become quite good at making decisions and adapting on our feet, and we'll continue to do that. We certainly appreciate the important relationship that we have with the city. I know our students are some of your youngest citizens, but certainly we are anxious for them to be blessed with education so that they can move from what they're doing right now and move ahead and accomplish anything that they really want to do by virtue of the efforts that have been made on their behalf here. I like nothing better than hearing from parents who tell me about their student that is working at a high level, either in the world of work or at a university or in the military. And it's really gratifying to know that we had a part in that. And so I appreciate the focus that we have on education here in our community, and just thank you for your cooperation together as citizens. I think that's what really drew me to Carson City in the first place, is the fact that this place has that capacity and that love and desire for support for our students. So I thank you for this opportunity. Do you have any questions for me? Anything you might have heard about our start of school or what we're planning for the future?
Does any member have a comment, please?
So, Mr. Stokes, I just want to say, the last year and a half, you've had to make some really tough decisions that haven't always been popular, and I feel like you've increasingly been taking a lot of abuse in our meetings. And so I just want to say that I respect the work you do. I trust your leadership of the district, and ultimately, we're doing everything we can do to keep these kids safe and our staff safe, and to keep these kids in school, which we know is vitally important. And so I just appreciate the way you can just let it roll off your back and keep your focus on the kids and keep us moving forward. So I respect that. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walker.
Supervisor Schutte?
I echo what Mr. Walker said. It is just a tough situation, and there really isn't a one-size-fits-all answer. I understand that, but there are ways to help mitigate the common enemy, if you will, which is the virus. It's masks, and I spoke to this earlier today, masks are one way to mitigate it. But what you said today, I think, really has an impact with the contact tracing involves more students when universal masking is not in place. And again, if in the effort to keep more students in the classroom, how can we do that? This is one way. So thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you.
And I think I heard you might be retiring at the end of this school year. Have we run you out, or?
There's lots of work to do yet, Mrs. Mayor, so.
They're giving you a new office. Oh, sorry. I thought maybe there was an enticement there or something. It's not going to work? No, right? But thank you for your service to the school district and to the community. Thank you so very much. Okay, with that, we're on the final public comment section. Do I have anyone on the phone?
There are no callers on the line at this time.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone in the audience with final public comment? Seeing none. If there are no objections, anyone, then we will be in adjournment. Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you all for coming together.
Thank you, everybody.